Welcome to the AI ERP and Dynamics and Power Platform community. Today we have another AMA, this time with somebody in a slightly different role coming from the recruiter side. We have Ryan Carolan. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Ryan, why don't we start off giving a quick introduction of yourself and what you do for those who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, so I have been in the D365 space for it'll be actually 14 years this summer. So fell into it after I graduated and yeah, it's always been on the recruiting side, so helping end customers, helping partners find the talent when they need it, essentially. So yeah.
How'd you break into that space? You've been doing it 14 years. What were you up to before that?
Well, before that, as you know, this is my second career. My first career was in football, and I'm gonna
I
say
asked that
football.
question on purpose.
I know, I know you want me to say soccer, but I'm not gonna do it. Um, but yeah, I played at Crystal Palace for about 6 years before I, um, well, I was destined to be a recruiter, right? Yeah. But yeah,
So
I played.
maybe before you finish answering that, I'm a Fulham
Mm.
supporter. If you don't recall, who's going to place higher in the league this year? Do you think? I think that's the most important question that we have today.
Do you know what? The thing is, Palace is not the team I support. And
It's
in this
not.
example, I wish it was because I support West Ham and we are doing terrible this year. We might go down. But no, Fulham are doing all right, aren't they?
So
They're
they're doing
not.
all right. So back to that. You were playing football. Obviously, at some point that stopped. How'd we get into dynamics? I guess specifically for recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, it was just by complete accident. Um, I went to college and did the classic sport and exercise science degree and then realized I didn't want to really work in sport after playing it. So um yeah, I just found a job, wanted to get a job. And the firm I joined originally, they said basically, here's Dynamics, this is what it is. Here's a phone, off you go. So yeah, there was a lot of learning on the job back then.
Are there any parallels between like the, I guess, to some extent that doing it on your own, essentially, here's a phone, like you said, but then trying to pursue a passion like a professional athlete, a lot of that is your own drive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in sport, you have like, I think for any parents that have kids, like, and I feel the same about my boy, like the values that you learn in a team sport, if you can get involved in that in a young age, I just think that sets you up for um, so many valuable skills later on in life. Like losing being one of them, because no matter what we do in life, like we're gonna get knocked down. It's gonna be tough. There's gonna be periods where you feel like this is too hard. I don't want to do it. And for anyone that's in recruitment, like that side of it where you get rejected and it's sales, right? It is sales. Except you're not selling a product that's inanimate. Maybe AI, we'll talk about that, but you're dealing with people who can change their mind and who can surprise you, right? Um, so there is a lot of that, and actually, if you're not resilient, you probably wouldn't last, very long in recruiting. So I think there's definitely parallels that set me up to do well in this from that perspective. Yeah.
But what I think what we all deal with mostly is disruption. You already mentioned AI. For us as partners and consultants, we have to think about that a lot. I'm sure that has probably shifted the way you've had to work with the folks you're trying to land jobs, the partners and the end user companies you're working with to try to fill their roles. What has the injection of AI done to is the recruiting market?
I mean, whenever I think about AI, I think about it two ways. I think like, and when I speak to people, I think, well, how do you personally use it to do your job? And then obviously you flip it into like ERP and CRM and then look at how it's impacting that. Um, I think everyone that's probably watching this would agree. Like we're all using AI so much more than we were even a year ago. You know, it is such a good tool to save time and and even in certain instances with the right control, get better outputs for the work that you do. Um, so I'm certainly using it. The CRM that I use personally is got a bunch of AI features that save me so much time on admin that it's just unbelievable. You know, it gives me more time to do the things that are important. But um, when it comes to Microsoft Dynamics and AI, I don't know. I think a lot of customers that I speak to are still trying to figure out ERP. You know, like that's still a big beast that they haven't quite nailed. And I'm often, you know, I actually did a post the other week, and I was just like asking the question because I got a Microsoft marketing email that said um, something like how foundational AI is now to ERP, and I wanted to poke at that immediately because I was like, I don't know if you could call it foundational yet. I can see where it's going. And actually, off the back of that post, a guy from Microsoft kindly shared his time with me to show me what the MCP server can do. And it was mind blowing. Like I was like, okay, all right. But this is so new now, right? I don't know if it has truly impacted the like this. Like yes, there are new roles now that are coming up that are AI focused, but for all of the traditional roles, you know, functionals, technicals, project manager, like they're not changed yet. But I would I would bet a lot of money that in 3 years from now, that landscape of what talent is required to successfully implement ERP, that is going to look different than it does today.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think for us who are close in the industry, we've seen it coming slow, like I don't want
Yeah,
to say slowly, it's probably fast, but I think back even to like 2 years ago when you look at how Microsoft designates the MVP program for business applications. You used to be specialized in business applications, ERP, F&O, CE.
yeah,
2 years ago, they swapped that to AI ERP. So they had already rebranded what the business application name was. It's now AI ERP. You're not D365. You're not
yeah,
FNSC, CE. You are AI ERP, and everything was focused around that. And I think the first tools we started seeing were more the AI. Everyone had started seeing chatbots essentially, right? Generative AI through chat. And now what we're seeing with things like the MCP is, well, if that's connected to our data and our ERP and we can use it to configure the system, we can use it to create transactions. I think that's where they're going with the term foundational, and it can
yeah,
start to do all of the activities, all the tasks, all the foundational builds of running an ERP. It doesn't mean we're going to replace um, all of the people. It just means those people are going to be doing things a little bit differently and with hopes that it's more efficient, I guess. The other thing I'm
yeah.
more curious about that's maybe not specifically dynamics related, but have you seen AI or other tools that the companies and candidates you're working with, like, are they leveraging it to automate some of their interactions with you? Do you see resumes that now that it's just 99% of them look AI generated, or what has the impact been there in terms of just recruiting, ignoring, the space maybe you recruit in?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think LinkedIn was one of the culprits initially for me that led to like it. Let's say you posted a job on LinkedIn, right? It became and it is now so easy to apply for that job. It doesn't take much time, which, you know, for a genuine applicant looking for a job is great news, right? I can apply to many jobs, but then you put it through the lens of how easy it is to just apply to anything and everything because you're desperate and you don't check if it's even a good job for you. That leads to HR teams just getting inundated with hundreds of applicants that um, may or 99% of them are not relevant.
Well, an
Um,
encounter, are they Are they doing a
now
first
using
pass
AI.
review with AI tools as well
Yeah,
to vet
yeah,
those,
yeah,
and it becomes this big cycle?
yeah. I mean, again, it depends how you prompt your AI to screen these people, because if if they're looking for like exact words, for example, keywords, you know, like Microsoft Dynamics, for example, how many ways can you put Dynamics on your resume? Like there are so many variations, um, with spaces, without spaces, with ands, with the symbol and, like there are just
Finance
so
and
many.
operations,
Yeah,
finance and supply chain,
supply chain.
CE,
Yeah.
business
Um,
central. You keep going.
so you have to be careful about filtering out the right people as well, because that is another complaint from people. It's like I apply for a job that's genuinely great for me and I don't hear back.
Yep.
Which is a problem, and then that creates distrust in the whole system, and the good people stop applying for jobs, and you know the the cycle sort of continues. But yeah, I've got customers that are using AI from a like a really smart perspective. They'll plug in the job description to whichever AI it is that they're using to do that first scrape of people, but then they'll go one further and they'll have all of the interviews transcribed. And this is something that we offer as well. Our AI will transcribe all of the interviews so that you can then analyze that afterwards and score people. If you've got 10 people going for a role, it's really good at analyzing the conversation and picking up on the context. Again, if it's anchored to a job, and you can anchor it to you know your culture and your values and beliefs, and it is very good at analyzing that through an interview process. So I've started to see some of my customers do that, and we do that, which is, yeah, it's great.
Do you know of any customers who are using the tools that more also analyze the visual and audio aspect? So I know even in Teams, there's I think it's called Speaker Coach or something like that, and it will
Oh,
analyze.
really?
Am I
Body
looking
language.
at you? Am I looking at the screen just
Yeah,
like you would? And it will try to analyze body language. It will try to analyze, am I going, full volume at times versus lower volume? Are there long pauses? And it attempts to give you feedback
yeah.
on public speaking. Has that anything like
I
that
haven't seen
seeped
that.
into the interview process?
No, I've seen, so R1 can score based on and I'm not sure exactly how it does it, but levels of engagement and like sentiment.
Okay.
So there's a way that they can, if we're talking very like this, and the energy is low and lots of pause, it will pick up on the fact that maybe the engagement isn't too high or the sentiment isn't too high. But um no, I've not seen the video ones. But I mean, the other thing to talk about as well that's on the rise is just AI applicants, as in completely made up people that don't exist,
Yep.
or are being overseen by a human, so that even video calls, there's two ways that this is impacting, how to confidently get trust in an applicant. Because I've heard stories where it might be a human being on the call, but they've got AI open here, and you ask me a question, and it's heard the question that you asked, and it will give a textbook answer
Yep.
immediately. So maybe the tool that you're talking about might be able to suss that, they're looking over there and then they're reading something, before they're answering, but it's so instant, the
I
information that
mean,
you can get.
I worry about that becoming more commonplace, especially if somebody becomes really in tune at training it so it doesn't sound so robotic. Like I'm gonna configure and put in prompts to this agent to speak like I would and to respond like I would in natural language.
Yeah,
And if I have a certain, microphone parameter turned on, it hears you talking and it's
Yeah,
translating that and responding back. Yeah, absolutely. And what does that do? What does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? If someone can successfully outsource themselves to six different partners and do the job, is that a good thing? I would say partners are going to say no. Like we'll figure out a way to maybe outsource our own people within the
yeah,
organization. But
yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there doing that sort of thing.
There are. I mean, I've obviously wouldn't ever talk out loud about the names of, but I have a list of names of people that I know do just try to get as many contracts or as many jobs at once in D365 because they're really good at interviewing, but they only surface know all of them, and they'll try and get away with 3 or 4 paychecks basically before they know they're going to get sussed out, and it's what do you do? You know,
So it says you
um,
emphasize speed and trust, boasting an average time to interview under 24 hours. So, question about that vetting process, working with candidates, working with companies.
yeah.
How can, that's a quick turnaround process. What happens when there's lots of applicants, lots of companies? How do you maintain that ability to do that all at scale?
So just to clarify, that's contractors, right?
Okay.
We're talking about the contractor. So D365contractors.com is a brand I started last year, and it's essentially, well, it started as a community just for the contractors because, I work for myself. It can get lonely, and I was just I sat down with her. I was like, I've got this fantastic group, network of people that I've built over, 10 plus years. And
And is a global community or is it
North
based
America
North America
primarily,
only?
is where, yeah, where the strength of my network would be. So, the contractors.com brand, it's foremost a community for independent contractors. So we meet monthly. There we've got an online platform that everybody's on, and can access each other to you know, if you have a question that you're not sure on, and just speaking to someone that's an expert in a slightly different lane to you could save 30 hours of, maybe 30 is a bit extreme, but like could save you 10 hours of your time researching and trying to figure something out. So that's the reason that we started it. But then uh, we realized that actually, well, I realized because I asked them the tough questions. The thing that's most important to them is that they find contracts when they need work.
Yeah.
So, I know I'm going a bit off topic from your original question here, but we're working now really hard to create awareness that this group exists. Because I believe in the value of a good independent contractor for Microsoft Dynamics. I've seen firsthand some of the amazing work that they can do for customers and for partners. But this primarily is aimed at creating awareness for customers that this group of people exists. But the 24-hour thing, it's because we've spent years and years and years building relationships and trust with people, and I think that's where it comes back to for me is the trust. Um, more often than not, the reason that people don't like to hire contractors is because not because of their skill set. Not normally, it's normally because they're unreliable or they don't communicate very well and they go missing or like whatever it might be. And one of the vetting pillars for us is what the human being is like before they are entered, because this is not an open door policy. This contractor community, everyone's vetted before they come in. So anyway, the 24-hour thing is just a reflection of the confidence of the people in the network basically. So it's as simple as that, really.
And do you see because I feel this way that there's a very real possibility that contractor space could actually grow with the shifts in AI because you see Microsoft, some other large partners, a lot of companies actually scaling back on people because either they were able to automate or they're spending so much money on trying to pay for or use or figure out the AI tools that they're having to scale back elsewhere. I could see a lot of consultants actually then kind of going into that contractor space, being like, here's what I'm good at, here's how I can help companies. Have you seen that trend, or do you feel the same way?
I see. Yeah, I haven't seen it change yet, but I completely get what the theory there it would be. I don't think I think from what everything I've seen, the way that businesses interact with ERP is going to fundamentally change over the next few years. How users interact with it, again, I met with a guy from Microsoft last week, and he was saying how, you know, it won't be long before users just do everything in Teams, and they just do it through a chat in Teams, and they don't even have to log in to D365 anymore, because it's plugged in, and they can just have a conversation and get the things done they need to do by just chatting like we do with OpenAI. But to get to that point, there's no getting away from, there's going to be people that need to know industries and business processes in those industries, because that's basics. If you haven't got those right, if you don't understand your business processes, like AI is not, you're not ready for AI. And if your data isn't in line with that, it's going to be a mess. So my theory on this is there's going to be two things that I think are going to be really important over the next few years. One is in like true industry expertise. I think when I speak to customers that are interested in contractors, if they are, I don't know, in metal extrusion, for example, um, you know, finding a contractor that's successfully implemented in that industry is priceless to them, because they don't have to experiment like with someone that has done something that's slightly different and doesn't understand the nuances in metal extrusion. And I'm no expert in metal extrusion at all, but the value of someone that understands that, I think, isn't going to go anywhere. AI is not going to be able to replace that. So that's one thing, is the very niche industry knowledge. um and the other one, I think, is change management. I think that is going to become one of the most important pieces in any business, is just managing, because there's going to be so much change, like not just from the user's perspective, but from a like business, it is going to fundamentally change. And I just think people that understand how to help a business change, like, or groups or companies or contractors, I don't think they're going to be worried about work over the next 10 years. I think they're going to be quite busy.
Is that or are those types of roles something you're seeing companies come to you to help find? Like, hey, we actually need not only consultants, but we need change management consultants, not necessarily people hands on keyboard in D365 or Power Platform, but are change management roles now opening up and becoming a priority for a lot of these companies?
I think they always have been for the companies that get it right. I think, like change management, but it is happening. It is happening more, that companies won't wait until user adoption is low, and everyone's jumped back into Excel again. Like, they're being a bit more proactive from what I've seen. But I think it's only going to grow. I think that's just going to keep, especially as AI makes its impact on how people do business.
Yep.
Mm. What do you think?
I I have been lucky enough to work for partners that have made that a focus
Yeah.
even prior to AI becoming more of a big piece of our business, because working in ERP, those primarily have always been the longest, more complex, or whether they had to be or not, they ended up being the longest and most complex projects, right? If there's a company who's fully replacing an ERP and they're, $100 million, $1 billion plus manufacturer, that's going to be a long project. You're going to have to figure out
Yeah.
based a lot of different things, right? Is it a big bang? Is it a phased rollout? How many sites do you have? Is everything consistent, or are the business processes unique? There's a lot to consider. So typically, most companies, or a lot of the people involved from the client side, there's not a lot of companies out there who will be like, yeah, our whole team has done that before. They've
Mm.
done a full ERP implementation and can take existing. So it's new to them. So a lot of times that change management piece is just as big, and always was needed, whether all the partners or all our people or all our clients bought into that concept.
Yeah.
No. Are you going to sell it on every deal? No. Sometimes the bottom line for a company going on ERP is cost, and the first thing they're going to look at is implementing anything that's not getting the ERP live. But I think it's a hugely important role. We work very closely with our change management team here. They have a very different perspective. They're working with clients all over the place on all platforms. They're not,
Yeah.
Dynamics
Yeah.
focused. They could be on an SAP project. They could be on a Microsoft Office project. They could be on anything really. And they just bring a really unique perspective on, one, asking the right questions about success. A lot of
Yeah.
times, companies, I think, they get live and it was a long slug and they don't feel like they accomplished anything. And I think as long as you always communicate what are the metrics that are going to prove that this has been success, and continuously monitoring
Yeah.
and pushing out those metrics help. So them being kind of that team that really helps focus those things, focus communication. I was on a call recently with a client who's going live, and they were doing some final end user training, and there's some people who hadn't been involved, right, in the total project. So there's very basic conversations going on. Why are we doing an
Yeah.
ERP project? What is ERP? What are we shifting from and to? And they help a lot with those conversations that, aren't as natural, for a lot of people. So I definitely think it's a big piece of what we do is change management.
Yeah. And what about the way that you're going about implementing ERP and AI ERP? Has there been any, even if it's just like one or two customers that you like,
Yeah,
wow, we would not have looked at that. That wasn't a thing 2 years ago.
I think we have to. I think
Yeah.
Microsoft is asking us to. I think our customers are asking us to, in terms of staying in alignment. So even when you look at something like the business process catalog, which was a tool to help companies align with, a lot of the things companies always struggled with on projects. They just saw a system and we had to do all these configurations and work with all these tools. Business process catalog is, you're going to map what you actually do in your business to how the system can do it. So it's supposed to help fill in a lot of those gaps of, we need these configurations, these business processes are relevant, these Microsoft licenses are relevant. Are we
Mm.
using warehouse management? Are we not? They can learn a lot of that just through the business process catalog. That's now being infused, right? Can we build Microsoft Visios of our processes just by typing a prompt into an agent
Yeah.
that's been created to help do that? Are we capturing business requirements with Teams recording on, and then taking that transcription and having Copilot, do things with that information? Um, Obviously, we've seen with MCP, we can go and perform essentially, I think, I forget the exact number they said, it's hundreds of thousands of user tasks it can perform. So
Actions.
as long as
Yeah.
you configure it and prompt it the right way, and you can connect different agents together. So we've looked at, what agents make sense for our implementations for our clients, at what phases of projects, what value are those going to bring. And that's going to range starting at pre-sales all the way, through client care. Everybody in the chain is really looking at what tools can help us do our jobs better, can help us and our clients deliver faster, and we can secure it really easily based on a lot of the security that's already built in with Microsoft tools. So, we don't have to worry about Ryan looking up people's salaries, because he
Yeah.
wants to know if he's making the same as everybody
Yeah.
else if he doesn't
Yeah.
have access to that information. So
Yeah.
we're definitely trying to build it in, whether it's to our projects or internally. Even what processes internally do we waste a lot of time on for little value that we can help automate? Time entry, can we do that? Can I type in, go log this last hour to an AMA with Ryan under, some non-billable category, right? Doing things like that save people time so
Yeah.
they can focus on value add activities. On the same side, since we're talking about money, Copilot and agents and all that infrastructure, you're going to have to consider that in licensing. It's not just
Yeah.
like, hey, we turn this on and we
Yeah.
can start
Yeah.
using everything with our ERP. It's no, we also now have to look at what Copilot licenses do we get? Which Copilot licenses do we get? Are we getting M365 Copilot? Are we getting other Copilots? Who needs access to Copilot Studio so they can extend and enhance
Yeah.
our use of those agents? Those conversations are, I don't want to say they're, overly complicated, but they are. There's a lot of
Yeah.
factors, right? It's just bringing in a lot more into context.
Yeah. It's like,
One question I have for you, Brian, and I've
mm,
worked with partners who I think used to at least evangelize that this was a specialty of theirs, but I'm curious from the customer side. When a customer comes to you and they have a project that's not going so well, and that could be bad partner, it could be they can't find the right contractor, whatever it is, what's kind of the first thing you do, I guess? What's the first question you ask? What advice do you have for them? Hey, we've been working on this forever and we can't get it right. We need to help finding the right people.
yeah. It it depends. I mean, I always like to understand like where in that buyer journey they are. Like, was this mid-flight and they just abandoned it, or is there a version of the system that their people are using today? Because it 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 changes the type of person that they might need, in my opinion. Um, but you know, my experience with this is um, you can pick it apart by just asking some questions around what they see the problem was and where did it start to go wrong. But it's very my experience of this is um, it's a lot easier to point the finger at the guys that have just been booted out to say it was them. It was their fault. But I would always like to challenge that, really, because there's normally something that they, and it might be a leadership thing. And I think a lot of this stems back to, um, how important was this initiative to the ultimate stakeholder? It normally comes back to that, or a lack of understanding of like change management, getting people ready for what was coming. Normally, there's a lot more that customers learn and can do the second time round than they didn't do the first time round. So the conversation normally starts with them, it was them, but then you start asking some questions about like why was it them, and then you poke around some of the responses, and it becomes quite clear that actually there are things that maybe they didn't get right, or didn't put enough time and or effort into, if they did do it again. But um, yeah, there's no situation that's ever the same. From what I've seen, there's so many ways it can go, but the um the customer normally wants to find another partner, and then I'm asking, well, what are you going to do differently this time in your selection process? And um, sometimes it would come back to industry again. I want to find a company that knows this industry, and I don't know, I personally do a lot of work with the boutique partners in the US, and I'd always recommend them. The ones that I work with, just because sometimes I found that the bigger partners don't always give the $3 million project the best people. And that can happen. That can happen because one of the questions is, well, how experienced are the people on your project from the partner? And that's quite telling normally. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question there, Drew, but there's a lot to look at. But
Yep.
you got to look back a little bit, but then you don't want to spend too much time on that. You want to get your lessons, and then you want to look forward, and look at a solution. So as much as it's good to dissect it, the most important thing is you look forward and go, okay, so what's important next that we do together? Um, and actually a fractional solution architect is one of my go-tos. Is just, again, find that person that knows your industry and get them in for a couple of hours advisory to just to look at what happened and make a plan to go forward. That is one of the most underrated moves, I think, because I know some absolutely phenomenal solution architects that are contractors that would happily spend a day with a customer to just find the best path forward, and then they help them do that.
Yep.
I can only help them find the right people, but that is, I think, something that every customer should think about, whether it's going good or bad. Just have that fractional person that sits in on the partner calls, that sits in all the big decisions that you make for your ERP, to just be that person that knows the solution, and is sat on their side. So um yeah, yeah, there's unfortunately a lot of rescues that go on. I'm sure you probably pick them up as well, at Argonaut, right? Like, and no two of the net. I don't know if you think the same, but I've never had an identical situation or identical reason for the failure of a particular project. It's normally a combination of things that are hard
Yeah.
to pin down.
For sure. And you're right. It could, it's a big difference in, you know, they never really got anywhere and that project never really got going and they can still start clean versus we're live and we're hemorrhaging money every single day and we need somebody to help us, right the ship. And then there's also somewhere in between, right? Taking over a project that maybe has spent millions of dollars, done a lot of design work, but they don't know how they're getting live. There's so many different questions to ask. So I agree with your take there. We're getting towards the end, so a couple questions, maybe more fun or at least looking forward. So
Yeah.
it looks like there's more probably Dynamics or Microsoft or industry events now than ever before. There's lots
Mhm.
popping up. There's partner events, there's end user events, there's both. We have Power Platform Advice, we have Summit, we have Dynamics Con, we have roadshow events. Partner Vibe was the one that just happened. That's a
Yeah.
newer one. We had Convergence come back, and now that's going to be back again all the time. Are there events for you that are big ones you're focusing on? Are there places you're looking to network with folks this year or things that are of value that you're going to be looking forward to for the next 10, 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, Convergence just came back out of nowhere, didn't it? And like, credit to like Bobby um for getting it like back. Like, I mean, it just was. I think it was like 2 months. I think the first, or maybe 6 weeks when I first heard about it. It was like, oh, it's in December. Okay,
It happened very quickly. Yeah.
yeah. But I've spoken to so many people that went, and the feedback was phenomenal. Like, just about the content, because it was Microsoft led. Um, and yeah, that's why I didn't go. But yeah, this year Nashville's one of my favorite places in the US. Can I just say? Summit is in Nashville this year, isn't it? In
It is,
October.
yes. Yeah.
So
They've done it there a few times. It's a beautiful
yeah,
venue to have it.
yeah. But that aside, Summit's normally the one for me to go to. It just has the biggest concentration of my customers. But yeah, I know Dynamics Con has been growing, and again heard good things about that. I think that's in Vegas this
It
year.
is in Vegas, yes.
So yeah, Summit is still the one. I don't know much about Convergence this year, where it is, or I'm assuming it's
I
in December
I
again, is it?
I think it's also in Miami again. I don't know
Miami.
if they're returning to the same exact location, but I think it's also in
Yeah,
Miami again.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah. I don't know much about the Partner Vibe one. I've seen it, but did you go to that one?
I did not. No, I had.
Okay.
I think the last time I traveled was probably Dynamics Con last May, which was Chicago. That was a very good one as well.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get to a couple this year, but
Very
Summit will
good.
be the one I will absolutely go to.
Well, we have the Men's World Cup returning this year, right?
Yes.
Do you have a prediction?
You mentioned about will Ireland ever win the World Cup in the synopsis for
So
this.
that was going to be a follow-up question.
Oh, I've jumped ahead.
But it's okay
I mean,
if you want to go with that one
well,
first.
no, because I was just going to say, like, Ireland have to play in a playoff match before they're actually even going. They're not going yet this year.
Oh,
But
this was more of in our lifetime. Do you think
in our
Ireland is
lifetime,
good?
ah, yeah. So it's another weird one because I was born, and raised in England, but I have Irish heritage. And when I was at Palace, because of my surname's quite Irish, I got scouted to play for Ireland, and I played for the Republic of Ireland. Um, Much to my dad's delight, because he's always been you know what plastic paddy is, Drew? Plastic paddy?
Plastic heavy.
Yeah, it's quite a well used term in England to describe someone that
Just fall
isn't
over.
act isn't actually Irish, but really thinks and believes
Ah,
that they are.
fair enough.
Like how plastic is not real, like it's like
Yeah.
an imitation. So yeah, that was if Ireland even get close to winning, my dad would just be the happiest man, I think, on the planet. But yeah, I'd love to say England are going to win it. I'm going to go with England, just emotionally.
Any predictions for the industry this year, Ryan, that you want to throw out to close us out? Anything that we haven't hit on that you think is worth mentioning?
I think we covered all the main ones, to to be honest.
Are you going to replace yourself with a Ryan Carolan agent bot?
I'm slowly building custom GPTs to replace parts of me, or parts of the things that I do that are either not very enjoyable or take too long. Um, but no, I still think we're far away from autonomous. And again, Elon might call me an idiot here, but just completely like human out of the loop AI. Um, I think there's just too far to go with trust and lack of trust to worry. But um, who knows what the next 12 months will bring? That's the like you said earlier, the pace of it is the scary bit.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you for your time and your insights. If anybody wants to contact you, if clients are out there looking for partners, contractors, need help, where can they reach you?
yeah. Well, d365contractors.com is what it is. And then on LinkedIn, I'm a regular on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you've got the link for that, but we happily share the link.
Yeah, we'll share that out when we
Yeah.
post this.
Well, thanks for
Well,
having me.
yeah, happy
Are you
Friday the
going to tell
13th.
everyone
Don't
about the background? Just
So
because,
today's Friday the 13th. So I was a child of a certain time and era that folks can figure out if you know where the video game's from. I won't tell you. But Friday the 13th, I can't remember if this was original NES or Super Nintendo, and it was a video game where you were basically you had to choose to be one of the campers, and you would be in the lake, you'd be canoeing, you'd be walking on the paths, you'd be going into your camper, and Jason Voorhees would show up out of nowhere, and you'd have to fight him. So you would try not to die. So happy Friday the 13th to everybody. Don't walk under any ladders. Don't look in any broken mirrors. Avoid the black cats. But thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.